Hey, welcome to Mondays in the Meditation Room with Dr. K for Midlife Musings. You are in the space and the place where you absolutely need to be if you are a Black woman in midlife, experiencing all of the madness and magnificence of this season. This is a amazing space and sisterhood where we gather for all things enlightenment and empowerment for Black women in midlife. Hey, welcome to the room. Come on in. Take some time to text a sister, call a sister, reach out to a sister, email a sister, and say, come on in the room with me. It's Monday, y'all. It is Monday, November the 20th in the year of our Lord 2023. Cannot believe it. Can you believe it? Next Sunday is the last week of November as we head into December. Cannot believe it, y'all, that this year is basically done, almost ready to put it in the books. It has been a year, but guess what? There's still time for miracles, change, movement, happenings, doors, openings, things that you've been praying for. It can still happen. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Tell yourself, tell your sister, tell a friend. It could happen. Keep on holding on, keep on believing. If you have set some goals for yourself for the year, it's not too late. And guess what? Even if you have to start over in December, absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Because, time is somewhat of a construct for us. And just because we're at the end of a year does not mean we're at the end of your life, your purpose, your destiny, your growth, your evolving. So go ahead and let it be. You still have time to let go of some things, remove some things, right? So go ahead. Why not? Welcome, whether you are watching live, hey y'all, or you are watching on the replay, hey y'all. Please know that we need your voice, your input, your comments, your suggestions, your story, your voice, because it matters. So go ahead, leave a comment, jump in the conversation, whether you're watching on the Enlightened Woman Facebook page, Enlightened Woman group, or YouTube. You're still part of the sisterhood, the Enlightened Woman tribe. You're still a part of it. And I'm glad you are here. Welcome. Go ahead and say, hey, how y'all doing? Y'all ready for Thanksgiving? This is the week of the beginning of the holiday season. Whatever you are celebrating, whether you are celebrating Hanukkah coming up, you're celebrating Thanksgiving, if you're celebrating Christmas, if you're celebrating Kwanzaa, whatever it is, happy holidays to you. Whatever it is, I pray you find some time for yourself, you find some time to be with family and friends, find some time to celebrate and be thankful for what is. Not what's gone, not what's coming, but being present in the moment and celebrating what is. So, hey, go ahead and say hello to your sister. I want to apologize for missing you guys last week. I had every intention on broadcasting live from where I was. I was out of the country, but I was so excited, had every intention on having some of the guests that on in the room that was traveling with me. It was going to be an amazing time. But of course, a glitch happened in our schedule and we didn't get back to a stable place to broadcast until well after 7. So I knew you guys would understand. You would be okay and you would go ahead and take advantage of having that free Monday for a little 30, 45 minutes that we're usually hanging out. And when I found that I couldn't change it, I couldn't do anything about it, it was beyond my control, then I decided to just be in the moment and enjoy it, right? Sometimes that's how life is, right? You can't change what's happening, you can't control it. And so just take a deep breath and be in it, or let it do what it's going to do and be what it's going to be and be okay. Anybody been in that situation lately that you things didn't go the way you intended to go, but you couldn't make it be anything other than what it was, and you had to take a deep breath and roll with it. And guess what? It wasn't the end of the world. You were able to go ahead and move through and move on, right? Yep. That's one of the blessings and the perks of being in midlife. You learn to pick your battles and learn how not to feel like everything is the end of the world, and especially when there's things beyond your control, can't do anything about it. You're learning how to let it go and let it be. Right? Right? Yep, yep. Crystal, just go with the flow. That's it. That is it. So I'm praying that you are well. Yeah, yes, Steve, it is. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. Um, and our stress, most of our stress comes from the fact that we think we can control things and people that we cannot. And we suffer as a result. And when we learn that we can't, our suffering and stress and anxiety will increase when we release people to their own path and be okay, especially when it's different from our path. Why? Because everybody has their own path to take. Woo, yes. Just take a deep breath in with me and release it. Woo, that's so good. Take another deep breath in, y'all. That got good to me. And release it. Woo, I didn't even know how much I needed that. So, at any moment, you can stop and just take a deep breath in and release it to help recenter and reset where you are. Release some stress and anxiety, and it helps you refocus, right? So don't forget, you always have that tool in your tool belt, in your tool bag, right? In your arsenal to use to manage yourself, because you are the only thing truly that you can manage is yourself. And sometimes we catastrophize things and make it bigger than it is, because we have an expected end for things. And I'm learning slowly. It's been a hard lesson, y'all, to manage my expectations of how something is going to end, or what it's supposed to look like, or how it's supposed to turn out. I'm learning how to be obedient to the spirit and then leave the results or the end results to God, because God knows way more than we do, right? At least more than I do. Maybe, you might you might think you know a little bit more. Flow with it. Flow with it. All right. So I want to acknowledge and honor our time together on tonight in the meditation room, y'all. This has been so good. These radical reset conversations. And this season really started in October as the transitioning of the seasons happened. Um, I was led to begin to do that just naturally, but was so excited to hear Dr. Marcia Levi say that October and on in the fall, and then again in May and spring, are great times to kind of reassess and reset your life, your body, your spirit, right? And to begin to make some shifts for the new season. Man, and I'm learning how, as God creates seasons in our lives, to manage and reset according to that season. And as we go into the fall season, of cooler weather. And this is if you're in the, you know, the northern hemisphere where we are experiencing seasons, and we are experiencing the fall season. It's something different if you're in a whole nother part of the world. But if you're in this part of the world, you're experiencing the fall season. The weather is cooler, and just the atmosphere begins to quiet and slow down, because you're going into that hibernation type of season. And even though we're beginning to put more on outside of us, we're also releasing some things as well, just like the leaves are falling off of trees, um, and the tree and the roots are still doing what they do, but they're in more like a dormant rest season. And some people even like to liken it spiritually as a death like experience, but I like to focus on it as more like a rest season. So begin to acknowledge the changing of the season and allow yourself to flow with it as well. Maybe remove some of the things you had on your calendar, maybe um, let go of certain things so that you can be less encumbered, so that you can have more time to go inward. It's the time where we're looking for more comfort in this season. Sometimes the cold makes us want to gather and huddle together, right? And we're looking for more meals that are more substantial, to hold us through the winter. But that's human, and that has been passed down to us, as our ancestors, right, had to deal with hunkering down, and so they needed something more substantial to keep their bodies warm and all of that. So we're what, looking for recipes for soups and stews and comfort food that will fill us up and make us feel good, right? And so go ahead and allow that, but make sure you don't overindulge in this season. But your body will begin to crave certain things, and it's okay to give your body what it's asking for. But know the difference between emotional eating and something that's really nourishing and life-giving for you, right? Yes. Absolutely love it. So I want us to continue our conversation, in what I've been calling radical reset conversations. Radical reset conversations. And we talked about defining reset as the freedom to focus again on those things that are important and matter to you and your purpose and destiny, right? To refocus again. And for me, we have to be okay with the fact that we're going to have multiple times of reset, because as you live and as you grow, the the times of distraction and disruption and busyness and all of that will come in and distract us and pull us away from things that are most important, and cause us to sometimes push things that need to get done on the back burner, start procrastinating. And when you look up, you realize you may be so far away from, most importantly, yourself, if from God, from those things that ground you, the things that were really important, and you've been kind of going around in circles. It's okay. It's necessary and it's normal for us to have to refocus again and again, more than one time during the month. So don't beat yourself up when you find yourself drifting or distracted. Sometimes you need to be distracted. You need to step away, but a lot of times it can be challenging for us. So it's good to refocus, and you'll find that your heart and your mind, your body and spirit begins to shift within you, and you begin to feel that anxiousness or restlessness, and that means it's time to shift or time to refocus again. And so when we talk about resetting in this season, we're talking about resetting our mind. We talked about reset, a radical reset of our mind. That's where we had to start. A radical reset of our spirit. And we've been talking about now a radical reset of our body. I hope you watched week before last as we kicked it off for November, right? And we talked about my body, my power, thriving in these midlife bodies. And we talked about, before we got into the mechanics of things, we wanted to talk about what is your relationship with your body, right? And to ask some questions. Is it intimate? Is it estranged? Is it shame, guilt, love, hate? Right? What is your relationship with your body? And most of us aren't even asking that question because we don't even think of it in that way. That we have a relationship with our bodies, right? And man, we should. That is a revelation. At least I know it was a revelation for me, because anything you interact with, have feelings and thoughts about, that's a relationship. Right? And so we have a relationship with our body, right? And the question is, do you take some time to figure out what yours is? Is it intimate? Once again, is it estranged, meaning you don't really pay attention to or feel comfortable in, right? With your own body, you feel distance from it. And sometimes that happens because as women, we've been taught to feel some level of shame or guilt around our bodies, right? We may have had the unfortunate experience of it being violated, and we sometimes, in trying to heal and cope with that trauma, we separate our mind and our body. We feel like we have kind of like an out of body experience. We don't want to be in touch with our body because it's the source of trauma and pain, right? And then we talked about, what is your body story? What is your story? What have you experienced in your body? What have you been told about your body? What narrative have you been living by about your body? Right? Have you been taught not to really pay attention to it, not to take care of it? Have you been told it doesn't matter what your body looks like, and you don't have to take care of it or move it or feed it optimally? You could have been told that your body is only as a property, because as our history is ancestrally, for those of us who are descendants of former enslaved Africans, we were seen as chattel. you know, we were seen as property, almost non-human, even though in our hearts we knew better, but we were treated a certain way. And we need to know that sometimes those things pass down to us. And unfortunately, women's bodies are still objectified and seen as something to be used or only for the pleasure of men, and we don't own it. We don't have our own agency. But of course, there's been a move afoot through the years for women to return to their own agency of their bodies and learning that it doesn't belong to anyone else, that our bodies belong to us. They are sacred. Right, that's where we want to go next, that our body is a sacred vessel. And our body has been created intentionally and intelligently by God to operate and do what we're called to do with it. Right? Just when you start thinking about your body, that you are not standing around trying to make your heart beat or counting the beats of your heart. It is working involuntarily because that's the way it was meant to work. And the blood is being pumped and and flowing throughout our entire bodies, right? There's thousands of miles of arteries happening, going from one part of our bodies to the other, the way our brain moves and thinks in milliseconds, and the synapses and all the things that are going on with our eyes, right? We don't have to get up and do anything. We just open up our eyelids and we can see, notwithstanding those persons who have been born without or may have lost their eyesight, we take all of that into consideration. And even when those things happen, right, how about the heightening, they say, of the senses, of the other senses, when one or the other is impaired? So our bodies really are sacred because they were created by God in a manner that most of us really have no understanding about, or how it does it. Like, I'm standing up right now because I've been sitting too much today and I decided I wanted to stand, but I'm not thinking about how I'm doing that. I'm just doing it. And I have feet that allow me to do that, and calves and knees and thighs that are allowing me to do that. So this body is amazing. It's intelligent, and God made it intentional. Our bodies are a whole ecosystem unto itself, and it's all connected. Wow, that we ought to respect, honor, and consecrate her, and to be mindful of how you talk to her, right? What you say, because your body is a live organism that houses your spirit, and what you say creates emotions, and your body responds to what it hears. So you have to be mindful of what you say, right? Woo! And so if you remember, our assignment was for us to know that this is a sacred assignment, to take care of our body, right? And to do what it takes to help her operate optimally. We had to start there because then I wanted us to now talk about for a few minutes, and we're going to do part two, part three, however many parts the Holy Spirit leads us to do at one point, um, to talk about still my body, my power, thriving in these midlife bodies, but also talking about um, this midlife when we're dealing with perimenopause, right? And that menopause or post-menopausal transition that happened. And I just start calling it a menopause meltdown. Ah, that's the title of tonight's conversation on our radical reset of our bodies, radical body reset, having a menopause meltdown. When you do even begin to feel like a stranger in your own body, notwithstanding whatever relationship you have with your body, whether it's intimate, whether you're comfortable, whether it's estranged, whatever, you're already feeling some kind of shame or guilt around it, right? When your body begins to go through a natural, and first of all, let me say that this season of menopause or perimenopause, menopausal, if you're postmenopausal, wherever you are on that continuum of the pause, I like to call it, you can feel like a stranger in your own body, especially if you were like me. There wasn't a whole lot of conversation out of solid of a health class in junior high, right? That really talked to you about how your body works as a woman. And so when all of these things starts happening to your body, and the truth is it's all connected, your spirit, soul, mind, and body, and you don't know from one day to the next how you're going to feel or what else is going to get ready to happen to your body, you can feel like a stranger in your own body. Anybody else feel like that? Anybody else feel like that? Just come on, comments. Don't make a sister be out here all by herself in this season. Do you feel like, what is going on? What is happening? Oh man. So first, let's kind of talk about the fact that this season is a transition and is natural. It is a natural life transition for us as women. So it's not a sickness, it's not a disease, it's not um, what my textbook calls, as I was going through my certification for um, to be a certified menopause coach specialist. It's not a pathological condition, right, that needs to be treated in that way. There's some remedies and things that we can do, but it is not like a sickness or a disease, right? That needs to be true because we have to normalize it. Remember, we said one of the things for me is why these conversations are so important is that we want to normalize the conversation. We want to normalize it as a normal part of life. We want to destigmatize it so that there is no guilt or shame or fear or embarrassment around it. And part of that comes is because it's dealing with our reproductive health. And because we're not comfortable with that and we only see it in one way, sometimes it's hard for us to talk about it. And we want to decolonize it. In other words, we don't want the dominant culture's idea of what it means for our bodies and how we treat our bodies and what we need to do for them to be relegated to what somebody else says. Right? So we need to, first of all, acknowledge that it is a natural, normal body transition, life transition, right? Just like, and it is a rite of passage going from one state of being to another as we um, age and as our bodies do different things. So we're talking about the very beginning of uh, menarche, right? Really, or the beginning of your menses or your cycle. You're going from childhood, right, to puberty when you start your period, menarche, or the onset of menses, right, or a pre-menopausal season. hmm Then you enter into another season where you are perimenopausal, is when your body begins to move towards another shift. And that season is called the reproductive years. But then you begin to move towards that season where you are know your body is beginning to shift and change because you're going through another season, or rite of passage transition where you're no longer your body is no longer preparing for reproduction, but it's coming to a close and an end. And so that's a normal transition. But we have to be empowered and educated so that we can manage those seasons and transitions positively, right? Till we get to the place where there's no more cycle, and then we are post-menopausal, which we then live out to the end of our days. And that does not include any further reproduction. And just knowing that can sometimes lift the burden and the cloud so that we're not made to feel like there's something wrong with us or there's something that needs to be fixed. Because remember, we just talked about this was a sacred vessel and created intentionally and intelligently. So then this is the way that God intended for our bodies to transition as we enter into new seasons of our lives where our focus begins to change. Not that we're put out to pasture, but that it is the season to adjust our focus on legacy and learning, right? Succession and becoming the woman who's confident and ready to walk through doors that we could maybe not have prior to, because our attention and focus was on other things. Now, when we're having these kind of conversations, we have to be mindful, right, that everybody's life is different, is set up different. Um, everybody, every woman, rather, I don't want to keep saying everybody, every woman's life looks differently in that pre-menopausal reproductive years we all have different stories. So some women may have children, some may not, some may struggle with infertility issues, and we want to talk about that. There, all of those things can happen. You may deal with diseases that are gendered. In other words, you might have breast cancer or ovarian or uterine cancer, all of those things that affect your ability to reproduce, or it may change it in certain instances, or you may have to deal with something that causes you to have a oophorectomy, meaning either your fallopian tubes, one or both, may be removed, or you may have to have a hysterectomy, which then pushes you into early um, perimenopausal, menopausal types of seasons in your life, right? And there's so many different scenarios. So when we talk about it, we know that there's not one way in which a woman experiences this season of her life. We have some women who are genetically predisposed to have started this season much earlier than expected. So we cannot always cover the entire gambit, but we always want to acknowledge that every woman's story is different. And we experience even this transition uniquely based on what our circumstance and situation is, because you don't and I don't experience it in a vacuum. We experience it in different ways because your socioeconomic background, your health disparities, right, cultural differences, all of those things can affect how you manage and process this season in your life, how you've taken care of your body, whether you've been athletic and you worked out all your life. You may experience it different if you weren't always good in your nutrition, or maybe you had some mental and emotional issues that you've had to deal with, the level of stress, any disabilities, your ethnicity and racial makeup, income, financial stability. All of those things can affect you and how your body, spirit, and mind processes this season, this midlife season, this perimenopausal, postmenopausal postmenopausal season of your life is affected by all of that. Your context, what's going on around you, whether you're married, whether you're single, your whole family context and cultural norms, and whether you're allowed to talk about it or not talk about it, whether you've experienced certain things in your body, uh, abortions or sickness that caused it, and all of those things affect how you come into this process and this rite of passage. And never look to other women to define a norm, because there is no norm. There are things that happen that can be normal to the experience, but every woman is going to experience it differently. Yes. And we get to determine, how we perceive it and what meaning we choose to give to it. The goal is to thrive as best as we possibly can through it by one, empowering ourselves with knowledge, and by two, not feeling like you need to go through it by yourself, and be willing to have the conversation and ask for the help and support you need to go through this season, because it's also a open door. It's opportunity to grow. It's the opportunity to heal. And so, as we, prepare to even close that, I wanted to set some more foundation for that, about what's happening with our bodies, and so that you can be informed, you can be encouraged, you can be educated, right? And so you can widen your perspective about what is happening with you. So, let's talk about tonight. We want to talk about, literally what is happening to your body. And I'm telling you, when I'm so looking forward to developing the coaching program for women in midlife and menopause, because there's so much that I learned that I did not know. And I want to be able to share the knowledge and the information with you that I learned, like some of the stuff we even just talked about just momentarily, just a few minutes ago. But one of the main things that we need to talk about is that our intentional and intelligent body is shifting us to a season where we're no longer reproducing. Excuse me, and no longer reproducing. And part of that happens by the particular hormones that are in our bodies as women, in particular estrogen. But there's literally three types of it, right? I was like, wait a minute, what? It's not just estrogen, but it's literally, estradiol, estrone. And I was like, wait a minute, there's three different types. Yeah, and so when we say estrogen, we're literally pretty much just talking about estradiol. When you're getting any hormone replacement or anything like that, that's pretty much what they're giving you, because that hormone of estrogen and the three forms of it is systemic. It helps us systemically, not just identifying us as a gender, but it does so much in our bodies. Oh my gosh. And it's all connected. It's like a loop of estrogen and other things that is in our bodies. Oh man, I was like, what? No wonder. It's like the estrogen keeps the elasticity and suppleness in our skin. It helps with our hair growth, and the health of our hair. Oh my god, it works with other um, hormones in our bodies to regulate our appetite. Oh, I was like, wait a minute, what? Our appetite. I was like, oh my God, it protects our organs, it protects our female sex organs. Women always talk about vaginal dryness and all of that. It helps produce and provide the moisture and the suppleness of the skin, because then what begins to happen when our estrogen is reduced, it becomes drier because there's not as much moisture. The skins and the layer of the skins become thin as it's reduced. I was like, oh my gosh, because you're like, what is going on with all of these things that begin to happen in our bodies, right? It is also helps us with keeping our bones strong and our muscles strong, so that one of the dangers of this season is the thinning of our bones, the adjustment of the calcium and the things that make up our bones. Woo! Why they suggest women do weight training to kind of strengthen your bones, things that can absolutely be turned around, your joints. I was like, what? Absolutely. So things just aren't happening to us willy-nilly. It is actual responses to our bodies. Um, I guess the reduction of the level of estrogen in our bodies. And so we just need to begin to um, educating ourselves and what we can do in response. So if you are dealing with the whole discomfort and increase in urinary tract infections, incontinence, woo, right? All of that stuff, the thinning hair, the dry skin, the itching, um, the mood swings, the fatigue, all of that, it's connected to what your body is going through. The hot flashes, man, all of these things that are beginning to happen to our body is because of the shift in certain hormones in our bodies. And so when we begin to learn, we can then also do the things that helps us not change it or stop it, but that will help us manage it, right? And agree with it. So there are things we need to shift, like digestive issues. There's certain things we can't eat anymore, the whole 9 yards. So we have to make sure we understand the connection, pay attention to it, and not ignore it. And the whole insomnia, not being able to sleep, feeling like we can't function. There are literally things that are happening in your body that's causing all of that. So there's nothing wrong with you. You are not causing it. It is the normal process of our body shifting and changing. And so it's important for us to know that, so that we can then uh, don't feel like we have no recourse or that we're powerless. Knowing is half the battle. The whole shifting of our fat in our body is becomes like adipose um, fat, where, and then it begins to shift from certain places to our midsection. So when we get frustrated about the midlife punch or pooch or whatever you want to call it, it is literally your body shifting. We don't really want it to shift in that matter, but it does. The fat in our bodies, for whatever reason, begins to shift and settle in that area. And so we have to begin to talk about it, acknowledge it, and with all that we possibly can, not get angry about it. Because the truth is, for me, I can only speak for myself. There are certain things I would have done differently when I was younger to prepare for this season of my life. You can't mitigate it all, but it's unfortunate because we don't have these conversations. We're not taught about it. We don't do those things, right? So now my goal is to do things a little bit different so that my future self will thank me for the shifts and the changes I'm making now, right? So it you matter, your health matters, your body matters, but we have to have these conversations so that we are equipped to know, one, that is normal, two, what it is, and then three, how do we respond? And we're going to talk some more about it. And I'm hoping you're looking forward to, as much as I'm looking forward to, the coaching sessions that will be available for us. Then we can go a little bit more in depth and into the details of what's actually going on with our bodies, right? So I'm looking forward to it. And there are opportunities for us to mitigate it with treatments that beforehand we were so scared to do, like hormone replacement therapy and things like that. But the research that was done back then has now been readjusted, and so there's more help out there for us to manage the system, to manage the symptoms that we're feeling as our bodies do what they're naturally created to do. So we're having a radical body reset conversation, y'all. And it starts with knowledge. It starts with being empowered by knowing what our bodies are actually going through so that we can better respond to it. Such a technical kind of conversation for us, but it's good, right? It's good. We can handle it. I'd rather be empowered and equipped and know, so that I can respond better, so that I can thrive, so that I won't feel like I'm a victim of my own body, like there's something wrong with what's happening. But it's a natural transition for us to come into a new season of more power, confidence, authority, and joy in our living. Yes and yes. Whew, thank y'all for hanging out with me. Just take another deep breath in and release it. I know that was a lot, but we can handle it, right? We can handle it because we are determined to rediscover the joy of being who we are in midlife and beyond. Thank y'all for joining me. I'm looking forward to sharing some more so that you can be equipped. That's my goal. That you would be equipped, that you would be empowered, that you would heal, that you would walk in a level of wholeness that God absolutely intended for you to walk in this season. Get some good rest on tonight and take some moments to just reset yourself as the day closes and comes to a close. Take some time to honor yourself, to honor your thoughts, whatever you need to do. Maybe journal, just dump some stuff, get it off of you so that you can sleep well and sleep better. Look forward to seeing you again on Mondays in the meditation room with Dr. K for Midlife Musings. Don't forget, you can follow me on IG at The Enlightened Woman. You can Enterprises. You can follow me at Kelly V. Hayes, or you can just continue to follow me on Facebook on The Enlightened Woman or Kelly V. Hayes page, as well as we continue to do life together and journey together as Enlightened Woman Sisterhood. Amen. Absolutely love y'all. Look forward to seeing you again real soon. Have a peaceful and powerfully, joyfully restful night. Talk to you soon. Bye.